Turner's number is incredible. You never
Yeah.
see construction companies grow 44% because it's hard to even take on that level of growth. But their backlog actually justifies it because they publish that they have 39 billion in backlog.
According to S&P Global Market Intelligence's 2025 survey of 1,000 enterprises across North America and Europe, 42% of companies abandon most of their AI initiatives this year. Even if Meta wants to spend $100 to $150 billion on capex for AI infrastructure, they can't.
And, it's just a huge problem, the labor shortage. We need 500,000 workers in the construction industry just to kind of keep up.
Bricks, bucks, and bytes.
Adios. Hey, going well.
Glad we did. Okay, three of us today.
But Owen, how are you?
What did we say just before we hit record? Are you ready? And we said never. But
I thought you were going to say okay.
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 Dustin, go for it. Tell us why where does okay come from?
Okay, so okay comes from this. I just read a book about all the presidents. It was Bill O'Reilly's book where he does a synopsis of every president. And it's a term in reference to President Martin Van Buren always agreeing with President, I believe I'm saying this correctly, President Jackson. And so he used to call him Old Kinderhook. And because Old Kinderhook would always agree with Jackson, and then it got shortened to okay, and then it got used in some write-ups that everything was okayed, and then it eventually just became common grammar.
Amazing. That's such an...
That's actually a random fact on my Hinge dating profile now.
How's it going for you?
Yeah, dating is exhausting.
Well, like we said before, that has to be one of the most used words in the English language. So that is a very grateful piece of wisdom you shared.
It's almost crazy that until Dustin, you shared that, none of us actually knew where the abbreviation came from.
I had no idea either. I knew it stood for something.
I've got another question for you guys. Do you know which contractor in the US has just reported increased revenues of more than 44%, up to 13.4 billion US in the first half of 2025? Have a guess.
It has German ownership, I'm guessing.
Which has Spanish ownership, yes, unfortunately, yeah. Yeah. So seems like Turner had a good first half of the year, though.
Looks like it. By the way, I feel like this is turning into some kind of quiz show. And I don't know why I've started doing this habit, but I've done the exact same thing last week when I was asking you about salaries that OpenAI were advertising for certain types of roles. So it's not a quiz show.
Seriously, Turner's number is incredible. You never see construction companies grow 44% because it's hard to even take on that level of growth. But their backlog actually justifies it because they publish that they have 39 billion in backlog. So usually when you take on that much growth, like when the work ends, you're ramping back down. But this is something I don't know if we've ever seen this kind of growth with this kind of backlog.
The article says, so the backlog grew 21% compared year over year. So that's already, that's like late stage startup numbers. Once you're profitable, etc., you've grown into your market. So very good. And the realized revenue, that's what they're referencing, is what actually leapt 44%.
17 billion in the first half, on pace for, I think it was 17 billion.
So Dustin, you educated me on something in the pre-brief that I wasn't fully aware of, and that is the diversified nature of how Turner actually makes money. So it's not only doing GC work.
It's not. They have a business for purchasing large pieces of equipment for the project. And it used to be called Turner Logistics. It's now, I believe, called Source Blue. So Turner will actually purchase switchgear. They'll purchase air handler units. They'll purchase generators, any sort of large piece of equipment that's going to need to be installed. And what that does is prevent the subcontractors from marking it up. Now they will take a markup fee, but they also go to clients and say this is a savings for them. So that does give them flexibility to be a little more competitive. If it just depends on how much of, say, the 30% markup they're used to seeing, they want to pass on to the client versus, pocket in for a profit.
And I just looked it up. So Turner had, I literally Googled it right now. So Turner had released a press release a year ago that they expected SourceBlue to contribute 1 billion in revenue by the end of 2024.
But it might be the most profitable on a gross profit basis element of the business.
Yeah, and even 1 billion of revenue. I mean, it is needle moving. If you do, whatever, this year, 25 billion, perhaps, if we extrapolate here, you probably see much more growth potential in that business. And yet it's already perhaps doing 1 billion for you. So, I mean, that's no small feat.
No. I mean, they could have 50% gross margins. I mean, it could be even higher. It's just nothing but logistics and sourcing.
Yeah, I find this comment interesting. Though Turner has maintained its place as the top dog in the construction for several years, it's gotten there not on the back of large-scale, multi-billion-dollar heavy civil mega projects, but instead by focusing largely on clients in the private sector or institutional settings, including data centers, healthcare, education, and sports and entertainment spaces. Usually, when you see these kind of figures, there is always certainly over here in the UK, it's mostly a lot of civil work versus construction. So that's quite surprising to read. And of that, it looks like, as you probably could have guessed, data centers are contributing mostly toward that. So that's $12.6 billion in data centers, which is almost double the sector below that, or the area of construction below that, healthcare being $6.6 billion, education $4.1 billion, and $3.5 billion in sports and entertainment.
I actually didn't know. Sorry, let's start from the bottom here. I actually didn't know that Turner was actually in the sports and entertainment business that much. When the name I always
Warren Silk.
Exactly. So Minneapolis, Las Vegas, Death Star Stadium. Is Turner like one of the big builders of stadiums typically?
Yeah, I've seen Turner brought on a lot as a JV partner, just because most of these stadiums they're looking for JVs because of the sheer size of it. So they were a joint venture with DevCon and the 49er Stadium here in the Bay Area. And I mean, just their capacity alone, their balance sheet makes executing and getting these things turned over. Plus, they have an office in every major metropolitan region, which makes them very flexible. They can go anywhere at any time.
Got it. Well, I think Cleveland gets a new football stadium. I think Washington does. As well. These are big projects.
They're big projects. I'm surprised. They also have a huge interiors component. Like in New York alone, I think their interiors division does like $1 billion or $2 billion. They were doing that back when I was selling Building Connected. And that is just, New York with all of the high-end residential. That's not reflected in these numbers, but that backlog, they turn those over so fast, and I'm not sure if it's represented.
Wow. Now, let's talk about the 12.6 at the top here. So the data centers. Can that also be a noose around your neck if, the covenants are extremely strict, the penalties are extremely high, and you're not totally on point? What do you guys think?
I agree. My question here is labor, because everyone we speak to is specifically within just construction generally, is how you find the labor to facilitate such growth, or at least maintain or continue to grow at such a scale. And I don't know what Turner's answer to that is, but I'm assuming that they have some kind of innovative way to not get around it, but certainly lower the blow.
Well, they're certainly not self-performing most of this. I know that they have a big concrete division, but I think that's regionally. So their labor problems are through the subcontractor community, and if the subcontractors can source the labor for those projects. But as the GC and CM, a lot of times, it's not a huge labor burden. I mean, you still have to find qualified PMs for these projects. But yes, there's risks in the LDs on these projects, certainly.
Yeah. Maybe we should ask someone who will be coming on later, just to sidestep a little bit. We'll also, I didn't mention this as a start, but we'll be having Dexter from Propel People, who came on a little bit later, and they just raised a $3 million seed round. And for people that don't know, Dexter was actually the first employee in the USA for Aconex. He was a vice president at Command Alcon, acquired by Thoma Bravo, CRO at Toggle and Slate, and obviously now at Propel People. So he is described as a Contech veteran, according to the article I have. But anyway, back to Turner. What I found interesting in this article as well was that looks like they are, I didn't know this, I thought it was US-based company. It is a US-based company, but their focus was US only. Kind of obvious that probably with such revenue figures is not, but looks like they're also trying to strengthen their position in key markets in Europe, according to this article. And they recently purchased an Irish company, Dornan Engineering, earlier this year.
I saw that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing a lot of U.S. companies expand outside of the U.S.
Yeah, I had in who was it, Q1, I had 2 American GCs reach out to me to discuss the opportunity in Germany, which was very timely. You know, Germany doing finally reinvesting in its own growth and its infrastructure, defense infrastructure, manufacturing, yada yada yada. Has recently mobilized, I don't know if you guys saw it, about 4,000 billion of capital for the next 10 years. That's very attractive to invest. We will still have to wait for debureaucratization of Germany, so that actually but those 2 phone calls gave me the first time the impression that actually it is attractive for American business owners to again invest into Germany as well. It's anecdotal, I understand, but for me it was very important anecdotes.
Historically, there's very few U.S. companies that want to go to Europe or Southeast Asia. They were always the EPC contractors, but now you're seeing the typical GCs look at those expansion. Like DPR has representation in Europe now. Apparently Turner is as well. Where historically you had companies like Belfer Beatty and Skanska coming over. So that's an interesting trend.
Yeah, I'd seen actually DPR on data center business in Germany a little while ago. Is that what you're referencing, Dustin, or are they doing beyond data centers even?
I don't know the mixture of their portfolio, but I doubt it's just data centers.
Interesting. Shall we go to...
Let's talk about Figma.
Yeah, let's talk about Figma, and then we can talk about pilots. So
who of you bought stock in the IPO, and who of you bought stock at above $100?
Okay, so maybe someone who's a little bit more tuned into the financial markets than I am could explain why has the stock sunk? So for people that don't know, Figma IPO'd on, was it Friday last week? So roughly 6-7 days ago. And since then, according to this
last week,
article,
I want to say.
Yeah, the stock has sunk 27%. What the hell happened?
Well, for those people on this podcast that do not know who Figma is, you should probably research it. It's an absolutely amazing software for design collaboration. Almost every tech company in the world uses them for product design. And 3 years ago, Adobe tried to buy them for $20 billion. They had a signed deal. That was shut down by, I believe, the European equivalent. No, the UK. It was UK, right?
Was it UK or was it actually Biden's anti-cartel warrior that he put in here in the, what was her name? You know who I mean, Dustin.
Yeah, but okay, it was shut down by some.
Was it her?
Some regulatory agency and bureaucrat. Okay, I think at the time Figma had 400 million in revenue. Adobe's paying $20 billion. That did not go through. So now they're IPOing 3 years later. The current market capitalization is 40 billion. I think they're at 750 million in revenue, as according of what they released pre-IPO. So I was talking to Owen before this. They just drastically underpriced their valuation coming to market, and that is just loading up a spring with tension. Because when you're seeing it come to market, I think it came to market at basically a $20 billion valuation. people were just putting so much money in, and it tripled in the first day. And so it's not worth 60 or 70 billion. Is it worth maybe 40 now? Who knows? But this company it's game changing, and I hope it comes down more so I can buy it. But
When are you buying in?
I don't know. I think it can come down a little more.
You can do a bit technical analysis, Dustin.
I'll do my crypto analysis.
I have a lot to say about this one, I have to say. And it's, I don't know, maybe with a eye winking emoji here, what I'm about to say, but it is a bit emotional. So let's first look at the facts, okay? So Figma has announced a projected 200 million net income. That's a forward, okay? So that's not 200 million net income last year. That is a forward of 200 million net income. So when they IPO'd in and around the 20 billion, I believe, that originally was being offered. So that's already, on a forward, on net income, but when they then actually went up, it was a 300x forward earnings on the peak that they achieved within the first day. That is absolutely nuts. So 300x on forward earnings, so PE forward. I don't know who would actually ever pay that, except when you're growing efficiently and like nuts, which Figma, it is a growth engine. I'll come to that. So now in the latest pullback, it's still up 2.5, 2.3x compared to the IPO issue price. And that's still about like 200x forward PE. You need a very, very good growth to actually deliver on that number. Now, I've looked it up, so it seems that Figma in the rule of 40 is somewhere between 60 and 70. So growth rate plus operating margin, that's very good. So you're actually growing and you're profitable. I think they timed the time to go to IPO very well. It's a blockbuster IPO, not just because of the numbers, but because it's a very solid business that has a lot of growth baked in. Gross margin 88%, so software as a service business, doing quite well. It reports a net revenue retention of 134%, which means that the customers that come in stay and are at an average of 134% of revenue after some time of staying within the platform. In other words, you're expanding. So pretty great capital efficient growth engine that Figma is having here. But does that justify a 200x forward PE? Holy crap, you have to deliver a lot. So that's one thing. On the other side, I have to say, I would like to really meet these bankers in a dark alley after we had a few beers. Because this quite honestly is highway robbery for the existing investors.
100%.
It was being reported that about a third of the proceeds from the IPO was actually coming from secondary sales. What does that mean? That means that existing investors like Sequoia, who else was it? Was it Kleiner?
Yeah, they liquidated like a third of their holdings.
Exactly. So they contributed to selling the shares. Now, they didn't sell at 100. They didn't get to sell at the current share price. They got to sell at the issue price of in and around the 33. So in other words, they just lost a ton of value. So how does that get decided for anyone? So I'm currently, for the first time in my life, part as a shareholder of an IPO together with my colleagues. So I'm learning a lot of this. It's pretty fun. It's also pretty intense. And, crossing fingers, everything as well. So I'm learning every day currently. And currently we're actually in a phase where I'm learning how all the book building works. And so literally what is happening is that after you've received approval from the SEC, your lead bankers, plural, because oftentimes you have multiple bankers under contract, will literally go out to the institutional investors, and they already had like pre-book building conversations, but without prices typically, to familiarize them with the asset and the strategy and the team. And so now you go back to them and you say, hey, by the way, these are the numbers. How much do you want to buy at what price? And so that's literally the book building. And then in a simplified way, you're building the merit order. So you're kind of saying, okay, I have this much demand at that price, this much demand at that price. And then in a very simplified way, what they are doing is they're kind of adding up the numbers. Okay, I want to raise $1 billion, including the secondary sales. At this price, I have the demand for $1 billion. And that's actually the price that any rational person would say, let's go for it. But that's not what the bankers did here, apparently. Because apparently what they did is they wanted to have a really nice pop on the first day. So they went for a price lower and make sure that actually the more and more people would buy afterwards. And the people that actually got screwed on that are the ones that sold in the IPO. And this is not a single case. This is something that bankers do over and over again and here I'm now getting into opinion.
Yeah.
This is not a fact. One, very, very usually, bankers will actually be required to subscribe to the IPO too. That is something that is considered skin in the game. But that skin in the game also means that you are benefiting from cheap shares. Two, it helps your track record as a banker to obviously show great pops afterwards, because that means that you were successful as a signal. So really what is creaming my corn here is that the incentives between the existing shareholders who have taken on risk previously, who have helped the company through tough times, who have invested, manpower and etc., now get basically adversely incentivized towards what the lead bankers are now doing, who are investing half a year to a year of their resources into making the IPO successful. And it's not a single case. It's actually something that happens all the time. And I hope maybe that practice goes a little bit away, but I don't know how.
Yeah, it's so interesting. These road shows and the strategies taken by the CFOs and the bankers seem to vary so wildly. And you actually see the strategies vary widely in future forecasts. Have you ever seen the CFOs that report like, oh, our next quarter's flat? Well, how is it flat when you have like 125% net dollar retention? Like, how are you forecasting on this low end? And it seems like there needs to be some cleanup on what you can say. Like a lot of CFOs are sandbagging it and then they blow it out every quarter. Well, isn't that misleading the public? Like you're actually saying a false statement where in no model are you actually thinking that's going to happen. And I think that does an injustice for shareholders as well. But this one was so blatantly obvious that it was way underpriced. So not only does it dilute it creates extra dilution for the current shareholders, but it also they could have just raised more capital and took the same amount of dilution and had more operating leverage.
Correct. That is exactly right, because that demand was there. And the reason why it's unfair is because the bankers are literally building the book. That's why it's called. So that they literally have the book and they know how much everyone wants to subscribe to. So you can make an informed decision.
But that's where I'd look at the CFO. Where are you at those baker meetings and those investor pitch fests where you're sitting in there and you're like, no, I can gauge if this person's going to buy and I can represent this company to build the excitement. Like, I mean, it's sales at the end of the day. Figma is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think that they're going to destroy Adobe. There's so many network effects involved in that product because you see sales involved now, you see customer success involved, support involved on like, here are prototypes, here are wireframes, here are products going to work. Like it's a truly awesome company.
It is.
They've like democratized design for people, huh? I suppose a bit similar to Canva or a similar tool, yeah.
Different target group, but similar space, yeah. But I would also say, I mean, sorry, but getting the price that blatantly wrong is a fireable offense. I mean, that's just... Sorry, you can't claim that you're good at your job if this is how you priced it. I really don't understand it.
Well, I wonder if the shareholders have some sort of class action suit here.
That would be fun.
I'm sure some lawyer would take it.
If you get fired after the company IPOs, is it a big deal?
I'm just reading it. Dustin, you were correct. So the article says regulators in the EU and UK opposed the deal selling to Adobe. Yeah. So it was not Biden's regulator.
Do you have anything more on this? Because I'm so far outside my comfort zone now that it's not for me to comment on this.
No, I think that if you haven't checked out Figma, it's a wonderful company.
Yeah. We have a little bit more blockbuster pipeline coming up. So Klarna, the buy now pay later giant, is filing for an IPO apparently in September. Apparently in New York, if memory serves.
I read that.
Wait, didn't I read that they went bust or something?
Klarna? No, they're profitable.
Is that a different one? I'm thinking of a different company then.
Yeah.
So there was a
Klarna.
Mexican BNPL company called Klar. Maybe that one was having troubles.
I'm sorry.
So Klarna is the Swedish one, also quite good roster of investors. The rumor mill had it at 15 billion IPO value, which is actually way down from the last valuation, but still it would be a marquee IPO. So that's the next one that we can take on in 4 to 6 weeks and see how the bankers did there.
What about the one in your portfolio, Patric?
Not allowed to talk right now. And actually, I'm also wearing quiet period. I'm not getting super live information currently. But yeah, I mean, wish us luck.
Yeah.
We're certainly hoping for the best. And in fact, we haven't even decided what we're going to do in there because we're also awaiting the pricing.
One more thing, Patric. You know, one of the other conflicts of interest is usually when the bankers buy those shares, they redistribute them to their high net worth individuals. And so that is just a way for them to reward their high net worth individuals on these cheap shares. And so them underpricing it is awful. I mean, literally, if I don't know who did it. Let's say it's Goldman and Morgan Stanley. They get to go to all their high net worth individuals. Here's 100, sell it at 200 because we know it's mispriced. We just doubled your money.
I was actually not aware of that practice. That is,
that's exactly what happens. They buy them, then distribute them to their high net worth.
Yeah, that's called a loyalty program.
I like the 100% loyal. In this case, 300% loyalty program.
Nice.
Shall we move on to AI? Oh, we're flying through the topics today. This is good. Shall we move on to this article that I found, Work OS? So this is about, well, the headline of the article is why most enterprise AI projects fail and the patterns that actually work. So, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence's 2025 survey of 1,000 enterprises across North America and Europe, 42% of companies abandoned most of their AI initiatives this year, a dramatic spike from just 17% in 2024. The average organization scrapped 46% of AI proof of concept before they reach production. Sound believable? Do you think? Hard to gauge? No. What it does? Go.
Well, this resonates in a lot of ways. I'm putting a blog out actually today about migrating from desktop software to cloud software. And the stat we were able to find is 62% of all projects where they have a desktop solution, they're trying to migrate to a cloud solution, fail. And here you have enterprises trying to engage in AI strategy. Most of them fail. And the reason they fail, one of the reasons, is this is not their core competency, and they're trying to take on something they're ill-equipped to do. And a lot of people try, I'm a big believer in what is your core competency? Try to offload to other domain expertise, to people who are experts in that. So I think that CIOs, though, at large organizations like to take these things on, but there's been nothing that's gotten a CIO or a CTO fired at a large organization than a failure to migrate from cloud or from desktop to cloud or on-prem to cloud. And I suspect that a lot of these people are trying to build their own models, trying to build their own AI stack. And you're going to see a lot of them don't have the in-house talent and are going to try to hire these people and are not going to be successful.
Dustin, do you know the reasons why failures occur when trying to transfer from desktop or on-prem to cloud? Is there a specific reason that comes up, or is it just a combination of things that just mean the project fails?
Certainly a combination of things. I think the biggest thing, though, is the personnel. Like if you've been working on-prem solutions your whole career, you're not an expert in the latest and greatest modern cloud tech stacks, frameworks, development methodologies. And if you try to hire those people, they don't want to join those organizations that are so behind and outdated in their practices. So it's hard to even staff a team. So your team's not able to do it. And so you have to build another team. Now you're running parallel business units. Similarly, it's probably like this.
Interesting. Do you want to know that this what this article says, why enterprise AI initiatives stall. So maybe just to take, I actually found this article and I thought maybe it's not too relevant, but then when I started reading it, I actually saw a lot of parallels between this and why AI projects fail, and also why general tech adoption within the construction industry fails. And what comes up? Pilot paralysis. And so even in a few discussions that we had last week on People on Bricks and Bytes, pilots came up, and a certain large company we spoke to mentioned that some of their pilots last for 2 years and they actually forget about the technology that has been on the pilot, which I just thought was, so what's the point? So I'm very curious. Or Dustin, I would like your opinion on pilots, one, and then I will go a bit further after that.
I mean, pilots are tough, but if you can't produce, I mean, obviously most pilots should have objectives. The ideal pilot is usually paid because people need to have skin in the game to take it seriously. I do understand that sometimes they take a long time because they're part of a project, and project life cycles can be quite long. But you need to find a project that the life cycle is within a 6 months at the max, so that you can say, hey, did this meet our objectives? What were we hoping to get out of it? So a lot of them aren't set up to the beginning of like, these are the objectives we want to go meet. We want to see how, and this is what we're going to be judged on. And so a lot of times people engage in pilot without a clear understanding by both sides of what we're trying to accomplish and why we're doing this. And then they just fall apart. But I mean, I know of a major company that did an RFP last March for estimating software and still hasn't started a pilot with the people that they are trying to use, and just now starting it. And it's like, well, why did you guys even start an RFP?
Patric, do you have anything before
I actually have something fun for you guys. So I did it while you brought up the article. So I just looked up, why did data science projects or big data projects fail in 2016 for enterprise customers? And the logic that I applied here is I had seen this pattern before with any kind of big tech trend with enterprise buyers. So I found a Gartner article from 2017. Why did big data projects fail in enterprises? And it was reported by Gartner, 85% failed in 2017, up from 60% of big data/data science projects, up from 60% in 2016. Here are the reasons. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Starting with the tool, not the problem. Using fancy tools on simple problems. Here comes the banger. Poor data quality.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, the solution goes unused. I think that's the result, not the cause. Company culture disincentivizes usage. I think that's maybe a problem that today's enterprises have less than they had on data science back then. But here, not really having an end-to-end view. So disparate tribes, IT wants this, field wants that, estimation wants this. That was already a topic back then. And the business problem and specific business outcomes are not thought through. I mean, when you hear these, it sounds to me exactly like the reasons of 2025, no?
Yes, Patric. On this article, I'm glad you brought this up.
Well,
so this was what, 2016?
Patric, one thing you never talked about there is I see a lot of RFPs and they list all of these features. They never say, here are the outcomes we're looking for. How do you create these outcomes for us? If for any consultants out there, someone start coaching this market on how to actually buy software. It is not to list 200 features. Do you have this? Do you not? It is to show us how you're going to make us effective in what you're trying to do, because there can be a different way than these features in your antiquated software solutions that you have today.
I recently had a chat with about exactly this, but completely adjacent lateral with my partner. And I said, guys, we can shit on the Department of Defenses of the major governments as much as we want. Slow purchasing and not always effective in purchasing. But one thing that the military procurement discipline has completely nailed is specifications. They say if they want to buy a certain weapon system, they say exactly how many rounds, what is the escape velocity that there needs to be, what is like the what do you call it, like when the bullet goes through something, what thickness of the metal it has to go through, like it's extremely specific, right? And so
Question.
why aren't every people buying
Patric,
like that?
did they do pilots, these companies?
Actually, military buying, you do pilots, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough.
You're right, Patric. When they outlined the F-35, they were like, we want super cruise at this velocity, we want full stealth, and everything is specified. We don't care what the plane looks like. Just it has to meet these specifications.
Yeah, and then you build the first prototype platform, and Lockheed Martin does it, and other contractors would do that, and then you demonstrate them. So to the POC point, Owen, and yes, you get reimbursed for that, but typically there's no margin on that. Like there's a lot of development cost even on the prototypes, and then you get invited to continue with your development, and then there will be a second time when you're still meeting the specifications, etc. You're right, Dustin. Like why isn't every professional procurement organization actually forcing that into their RFPs?
I've got some, Patric, to your article. When was this written? The one you mentioned, 2018.
So this one was 2017, and it was referencing a year earlier where Gartner had done the same study, and actually the failure rate went up from 60 to 85%.
Okay, so there's some overlap. This article seems weirdly similar, but obviously written in 2025. So how do you ensure that this is related to AI, but I actually can see some of the overlap here with even technology solutions that exist within the AEC sector. So how do you ensure that your technology is adopted? One, solve a painful business problem before you touch a model. Okay, solve a painful business problem. Two, fix the data plumbing first. So there's 2 out of 2 matches so far. 3 is slightly different. This would have been different back then, but design for human and AI collaboration, not full automation. I think it's wildly important in AEC. 4, treat the deployment as a living product. So if you're doing a pilot, it should be treated as like it's actually part of the system versus a pilot. And you know what Gartner also predicts, maybe, which is also funny, that 40% of agentic AI projects will be cancelled by 2027.
I find that number low, I have to say.
It's not surprising. The long tail of how many agentic projects are going on is so fast that none of them have a foot to stand on. But I think that, and we've talked about it before, like you see so many AI companies that say they're an AI company, but they never talk about the problems they're solving. And so the companies aren't even focused on problems. They're just focused on AI. It's just...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, someone also twisted my brain a little bit. I'd never questioned this before. If you have a product, if you have a customer who has a problem, you have a product that apparently solves a solution, why do you need a pilot? If the product does what it's supposed to, and the person has the problem that they say they have, is there not just a click in between the two?
So I can give you reasons perhaps from the most vivid space that I look at, and that is the robotics companies that I look at and the applications. And so within the construction, defense, shipbuilding cases that I look at, to a degree manufacturing too, that I look at, still every customer environment, that is like the physical environment, but also the workflows, the data infrastructure, etc., is completely custom. There are actually not that many robotic rollout cases where you can do it without a system integrator in between, or you have to be your own system integrator as a robotics company. So that's one. Two, purchasing a robotics system is a multi-year commitment, both towards the robotics company, but also to your own organization. There's training involved, etc. So you absolutely want to nail that in that aforementioned custom environment. So to commit out of the box, plug and play, oftentimes will then have to be a small slice of your workflow. It needs to be mobile. It needs to be redeployable. If you give it back towards the robotics OEM, etc., that's actually the small share of the market. And similar things exist in software too.
Yeah, I think that every person should use a software before buying it, for the So I'll give context to this. When I brought Building Connected to the market, there was a lot of invitation to bid solutions. And so the user experience, though, in Building Connected was so much vastly superior to Smart Bid Net. We just wanted people to use it to see, while we accomplish the same task, how we accomplish it, that time interval is so much more compressed that the user experience differentiates us from everyone else. We also solved a problem around contact management. But user experience in software, some people just don't understand it. And those companies, you'll see them always say, we have this feature, this feature, this feature. But the path that you have to take as a user can be quite extensive. And the user experience is also critical in understanding what a deployment cost might actually look like, because you're going to have to train individuals on what it's going to take to use this product. So if the product is very, very unintuitive, you're going to have a higher deployment cost. You're going to have a higher maintenance cost because you're going to constantly have to train people. So until you actually understand that, and that's why I think using it on real projects, whether that's pre-con or construction, is super, super important, because otherwise you're not going to be able to grasp what it's going to take. And I've seen a lot of companies make this mistake where they go, check the box, lowest cost, we're doing that. We don't care what it does or how it does it. So it's a painful mistake.
There was a lesson I learned early in my investment career here, actually, and I'm a bit. So there exist different philosophies. I don't want to say I'm contrarian, but I think I'm part of the smaller set of founders and investors in this debate. So the conventional logic or the conventional wisdom would be long-term ARR contracts are great. They actually disguise your true churn when you're in a pre-product market fit situation, or even like you're entering a new segment and you want to test it. So exactly to your point, Dustin, when founders, before they truly understand what parts of their product is being appreciated by the customer, what not, if you close long-term ARR contracts, sometimes a year, sometimes even multi-year, it can actually lead to disguised churn without you knowing. And so the fact that you actually have shorter contracts also allows you to track much more closely while you're still figuring out your UX. Why did these customers churn? What is the true action and the true behavior? And so I'm part of that latter group. I actually like that in my early software companies a little bit more than the long-term ARR contracts too early.
Yeah, I find a lot of VCs, there's not a lot of VCs that truly want to understand the product from a user experience. And I think that it's so competitive. I think that's one of the ways companies can differentiate themselves quite substantially. People discount the value of user experience drastically.
I mean, Figma.
Figma. We just ran a full circle. Figma is amazing example.
Okay, shall we go to this? I was going to bring up another point, but we'll move on quickly, as this one also came up about energy being the biggest bottleneck right now. So according to this tweet by Richard Jacques, it says, even if Meta wants to spend $100 to $150 billion on capex for AI infrastructure, they can't. Transformers, power equipment, cooling equipment, and the availability of power is all limited right now. Schneider Electric is completely booked until 2030. So even if you have the money, you can't spend it. True or false?
100% true. 100% true. We have bottlenecks for every grid-related equipment. In fact, I will unhumbly say we already here at Fundamental predicted that happening in late 2022. And so we have actively been looking for example, cross-border component sourcing companies that dedicated to the energy-related infrastructure components, transformers being a big one. For example, having them manufactured, custom manufactured in India and then shipping them to the US. Unfortunately, that is also a tariff problem currently. But in the energy-related infrastructure case, the willingness to pay is very, very high, and the cash flows are also very good. And we see here, so Richard claims that Schneider Electric is completely booked for these components until 2030. There's still enough room to actually build a business. I've recently, together with my partner, looked at one in the US that is built by Indian founders, I think one of them actually came from Zwork, if I remember correctly, attacking exactly this problem. I'm very interested in it. So if you're building in the space for either Europe or the US, I want to hear from you. And I've backed cross-border managed marketplaces for exactly this, for building materials. They all work wonderfully. So if you want to attack this one, it's a bottomless market.
Mm-hmm. Why doesn't Schneider Electric pay a dividend?
Well, why are you asking this?
Oh man.
Man, they only have 10% growth. How do they only have 10% growth in their book till 2030?
Yeah. And not negotiating on price, apparently. And you're lucky if you place an order and get it accepted with them.
You have to be leaving money on the table here. Always looking for an opportunity to buy. They release a dividend, that stock goes up.
So we're not a stock tip podcast, right? So I can't do stock tips now.
No,
I didn't suggest anything. I just
okay. Once we're offline, I'll give you my craziest stock tip that I discovered.
love it.
Does it refer?
All I'm saying is 2.7 billion EBITDA, 6 billion market cap. But I'll take that offline.
We are talking offline.
Okay.
Let's see in the comments if people want us to share that.
Oh God.
Patric, Dustin will get Patric in a lot of trouble. Hey, maybe now is a good time. When we have someone come in, so we're gonna have Dexter come in. I think he likes to be called Dex, from Propel. He will be coming to speak to us in around 3 minutes. But maybe as we won't be able to get into the context because we have a maximum of 30 minutes with him. I think definitely you two understand where Dexter came from. So he was the first employee in the US for Aconex, which obviously IPO'd. And IPO was acquired by Oracle for, was it 1.2, 1.3 billion? Was it 20, which year? 2018?
2017, I want to say.
Yeah. And then so he's been in this industry for some time. He was the vice president at Command Alcon, who was acquired by Thoma Bravo. Do you know what was Command Alcon? Either of you familiar with
Command Alcon is the market leader for mostly concrete batching plants. So they have other segments too, but that is really the claim to fame. If I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but they have, I think, 70% or more market share among the 5,500 concrete batching plants in the United States. And the core product, I hope I'm describing it correctly, is a batching computer. So historically, basically what you did is you installed this computer in your plant. It would basically contain your mix recipes. So how much cement, how much water, what type of aggregate, in what kind of relation, and then steer the plant to actually create that mix, and off you go. Now it's actually a SaaS company. So on top of all of that concrete batch computer business, they had loaded that. Great market share, great industry reputation, and based out of, it's a software business that I think Thoma Bravo is probably looking to IPO here, Birmingham, Alabama.
It's great. Don't see a lot of tech out of there.
Yeah. Shoot, companies there.
Not a lot of tech founders like playing in the dirt. So.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, on that note, it doesn't have to do with Dex, but just to say, Thoma Bravo, in the same year that they acquired their stake in Command, they also bought HCSS. So HCSS is, in my lingo, the Procore for the civil engineering industry. That's the market leader.
They absolutely are. It's the de facto way. So the cool thing about HCSS is they have an automatic bid submission to almost every department of transportation, which is very unique because there's a standardized way to submit to the DOT. So you use their software and it's already ready to go. And no one else does it. No one else is trying to enter there.
So in other words, if I want to do highway work or road work, I'm on HCSS.
That's right.
Okay.
You're on HCSS.
So Thoma owns both businesses. Make of that what you want.
Big. And he was also Chief Revenue Officer at Toggle and Slate.
I hear great things about Toggle, by the way. Never spoken to the founders yet. If I remember correctly, we'll have to ask Dex. It was actually a corporate spin-out of a Miami-based contractor.
That's correct. Coastal.
Do you know more, Dustin?
I'm forgetting the CEO's name, but we've shared a panel together. He's an
We
amazing
can ask
guy.
Dex. He's here, by the way.
He actually was a House of Representative member.
Oh.
Hey, Dex.
Hey, Dex.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, Dex.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. We were just having a little discussion about Toggle.
Okay.
Yeah. Should we ask
I
the
was
question?
just in Miami with Johnny and Patric Murphy last week, and
That's right, Patric and Johnny.
yeah, it's a great company with a great use case. You know, automate takeoffs is a really great use of AI.
And Patric was a congressman, correct?
He was, yeah,
That's right.
yeah, representing the great state of Florida. So,
Wow.
and Toggle's a spinoff out of Coastal Construction, which is one of the larger GCs down in Florida, and do a lot of the fancy kind of buildings down on Miami Beach and things like that. And you know, it's really great when you see construction companies kind of build technology. It's always an interesting kind of example of how innovation gets out in the industry.
I think this was a similar, maybe another company to touch on your background as well, Dex. We'll get there, but as we're on this subject, I think Aconex was also a spin out of a corporate of a construction company as well. Maybe not a spin out, but I think it was born, and then they were going to curb the project, and then the founders bought Aconex and then built it from there.
Yeah, Lee and Rob are great guys, the founders of Aconex down in Oz, and they were best friends growing up in high school. And Rob went off to construction, to Multiplex, which is one of the larger kind of GCs down there. And then Lee went off to McKinsey and was like studying and doing projects around e-commerce. And they got together and said there must be a better way of at first doing, just sharing drawings and documents. But that's really how Aconex got started. So.
So there we go. Born from. We should do a segment on the best companies that have come out of larger construction corporates.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dex. So you're here because we had some news recently that $3 million seed round for Propel People, and this is the article. I'll take it verbatim from the article here. It says appoints construction tech veteran Dexter. Sorry about your surname. I'll not try and pronounce it as CEO. So there we go. So yeah, could you tell how did Propel People come around? And what are you guys tackling?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. I was really drawn to it because it's helping to solve one of the biggest problems. I think the biggest problem in the construction industry, which is the skilled labor shortage. And it's really got an interesting kind of incubation story. 1848 is a venture studio backed by Westfield Insurance in Ohio. And they provide insurance to SMBs. And so they set up a venture studio to create innovation for SMBs. And you guys know construction, we talk a lot about the E&R big lists and things like that, but 90% of the market is SMBs. And, it's just a huge problem, the labor shortage. We need 500,000 workers in the construction industry just to kind of keep up. It costs the construction industry like $20 billion in rework, lost opportunities. And, even the president just sent out an executive order in the spring, around skilled labor, trying to improve the kind of situation. So that's sort of what I was drawn to was it's a big problem. And I think HR is kind of underrepresented in construction tech. And so those two things were really appealing to me. And then the venture studio model was also something I'd not been involved with. I'm an LP in a couple kind of venture funds, but I had never been exposed to the venture studio model, which is, kind of an innovative approach to starting companies.
So Dex, you were at 1848 Ventures, and then you found the company Propel so compelling that you thought, yeah, I'm going to lead this company.
No, 1848, Propel People was in the incubation stage, the kind of pre-seed stage. So I got there a few months ago, helped kind of put together the business case and the investment deck and walked it through the kind of investment process. And then once we get our seed funding, kind of we announced we're out in the marketplace and I'm bringing in a new team and all those kinds of things.
Cool. Okay. You got Patric, questions for Dex?
I mean, I have a lot of questions about the companies you worked for before, but before we jump there, maybe we can, Dex, tell us what is Propel exactly doing? What is the solution you're bringing to the market?
Yeah, so we're building a recruiting platform. We're starting with an ATS, an application tracking system, specifically built for the construction industry. So some of the ways that we're really tailoring it to the construction industry is the way you source jobs. So people, go out to Indeed or ZipRecruiter, but we're also going out to all the kind of construction-related job boards. We're developing ways of posting jobs out to social media, building referral programs for companies and tracking those things. And then we're really trying to reach the candidates where they are. And, what I hear from clients all the time is, the best hires we ever made weren't sitting in front of a laptop, weren't, in an office. The guys are out in the field and they have access to a mobile phone. So we're doing a lot around applying through, text messages and things like that. It's a big problem, and we're hoping to solve part of it. But we really think there's an element of building a community to really kind of help solve this problem overall. How do we bring more apprenticeships, more people into the industry to help kind of solve that problem?
So in other words, would it be correct to say that your guys' thesis is that the pool of qualified applicants will churn every few years anyway, because the loyalty to the same employer is not like it used maybe to be 50 years ago, but the friction to actually apply to a specific company is way too high? Because, I mean, what will be the friction? For some, it might actually be language. Okay, if it's not language, it's I'm out in the field, I'm not in front of a laptop. It is taking me too long, but also I can attest to this from a portfolio company of mine, which is tackling this in Europe and which is actually doing phenomenally well. Like their growth has been fantastic. And what they had found, and I'm curious to hear whether that's part of your thesis too, is it's the dictionary, it's the language, because the recruiters on the other side are asking for, okay, can you please attach a CV and then please describe each of your previous jobs and positions? And they are like, hey, but just let's get on a phone or on a WhatsApp and I'll demonstrate some other ways to show you what's relevant here. All of these things, is that the friction that you are seeing too? And how is it in your space?
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, it's just people want to go, both the candidates and the companies want to move fast. And, this traditional of scheduling a meeting and an interview and sending a resume. And we just want to reduce that kind of friction, like you said. I also think there's a big opportunity to go after people that aren't out there looking for a job. So people that, that we can reach people through social media and things like that are unsolicited, right? They're not out there looking for a job, but they might be great candidates.
So Dex, actually recruiting was one of the things when I started building Connected. The idea was to create a network for construction. And one of the business models we always wanted to get into was we start with companies, but then you get individuals engaging and then you go into recruiting. So even my early seed decks talked about recruiting for this industry is actually quite important. Now, carry that forward at Autodesk, that's not a business model they would ever do. So I do think that this is incredibly underserved. And I don't think the horizontal platform, so you have Lever, Greenhouse, Workday, Rippling, Ashby. Ashby just got a great valuation. They are the only thing that they can provide is an applicant tracking system. But I think where you can differentiate yourself is actually being able to help them source talent. The sourcing is the problem here. Yep. Applicant tracking system is just a workflow. It's going to be hard to differentiate yourself there. But talk to me about how you are helping with the sourcing problem.
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about the link to associations. So there are a lot of associations, particularly at the kind of trade level. So linking out to those so that we can track and tap into their markets. Also out to all of the kind of trade or customer construction specific job boards. And then also this idea of going out to social media to reach people. And it's a really fragmented market. There's, you go to Indeed, but you don't really, you spend a lot of money and you don't really get a lot of the right people there. You might hire a recruiter, but then that's kind of expensive. You have a referral program inside your company, but that, you need to manage that. So we're trying to combine all those things into one kind of solution. And, we may get out to the point where we're an agent, right? We're a recruiting agent that goes out there and finds your candidates for you.
Is the current model subscription or is a hybrid subscription plus placing fee?
It's right now. We're set. Our first kind of pricing model out there. It's a traditional SaaS model on a subscription basis, but we're thinking through lots of different options, and as the technology evolves, I think the pricing model will evolve too. So as you
There's
guys
been
know,
other examples. One example
to figure
I
out
was gonna say,
pricing.
one great example for you to look at is a company called Doximity. So Jeff
Okay.
Keeney was actually an advisor to me. So they're a vertical network. They started with doctors or getting into nursing, and one of their big revenue drivers is actually placing and sourcing, along with they also do help pharmaceutical companies do surveys and research because they have this vertical network of doctors. But recruiting services on a vertical basis can be highly effective.
It's interesting, Dexter, you mentioned the role of social media in such a business. And I think thinking about some similar platforms I've seen, they do have heavy social media aspects to it, Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so forth. And maybe this is a nice way to preface into the next question, but you have to promise me the answer to the question is not TikTok before I ask.
Okay.
It would be, so you've been in construction tech industry now for how many years in total?
I added it up before the call today. 27 years.
Okay, 27 years. How have you seen the technology landscape evolve during that period? And let me just remind you can't say TikTok.
Okay, I will not. I don't even have TikTok on my phone, so I won't say TikTok. I love construction tech. I love construction. It's been such a disruptive industry across those 27 years. One of the things I love about it is both the people I've worked with. I've worked at some great companies, but I also love the customers. Like, they're really down to earth people, really practical. And they depend on, contractors depend on subs, and owners depend on contractors. And so it's a really good working relationship within the construction kind of ecosystem. I saw, when I started 27 years ago, there were a handful of technology companies. There were 4 or 5 out there. Then you had a little bit of a boom during the dot-com days. Some of those kind of died off. And then now we have, hundreds of kind of point solutions. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing I've seen is just, how easy it has been to create technology for construction now. And, things like, AI, mobile, BIM came around, all these kind of developments. So it's really interesting to kind of see the shift from a handful of companies to thousands of kind of point solutions.
Nice. Patric, your question?
I was going back on the social marketplace. So I remember, so a quick context, Dex. So we had started Fundamental in January 2019. So that's when I formally entered construction and Contech. And I remember, like in the year leading up to it, one of the more stupid things that I did in the year leading up to it was let's see what construction techs are already out there, who was getting funded, etc. And it's funny actually. So my brain still stores a lot of the names. Dustin, Building Connected was one of the hallmark names that obviously came up, right? Another one was Trade Hounds, and I just looked it up. So Trade Hounds is still this, I don't know, is it social media? Is it a social network, a community? I guess they describe each other, themselves around these edges. And I just looked it up. It still seems to be around. It says nearly 400,000 people use the free app to watch tutorials, share subject matter expertise, and find products at nearby distributor branches within the construction space. Is that a competitor to you? Is that something that you look to rebuild or perhaps give a refreshed network experience?
Yeah, I don't exactly know how, like you, are they a job listing? Are they a recruitment service? Are they a media company? I think we're a little bit more focused around the SMBs than maybe they are.
Okay.
And I think we're going to be helping you source candidates, but we're also going to help you your process internally through, the ATS. So I think we're a little bit different than that.
Yeah, so the way you're describing it, really, the offering towards the recruiter is there's the sourcing, the origination, but also the whole workflow part. To Dustin's point, that's very convenient. So streamline, and that's what my European company that I referenced earlier, PowerUs, they have started in a very, very similar way, and then they have added more and more trades and verticalized skills over time. That has worked quite well. I think if that space is not taken in the US, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, there are a lot of different kind of solutions out there. There's lots of little job boards. There's recruiters, there's staffing companies. There's LinkedIn. There's lots of different kinds of solutions. So we're trying to find our way in the mix of that stuff, and in a new and innovative way.
Dustin?
Dex, so did I interpret this correctly? You aren't one of the founders, but they brought you in. Are the founders still part of everything?
Yeah, so it came out of the studio. So the studio has an engine. It incubates the businesses. Like gets them to kind of pre-seed. I came in a few months as we were kind of developing the business plan and the pitch to get our seed funding. And then once we got the seed funding, we took it out of the engine and we have it as a standalone business.
Are you going to go to market regionally, or are you doing some sort of national rollout? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think we're slicing it both by trade, so specific trades. We're going to focus around MEP at the moment and then expand into other specialty trades from there. And then you got to look at some hot markets in the US that are growing really fast. You have Texas, which grows at 10%, which is almost double most of the other regional markets. You have DC in the Mid-Atlantic with data centers. You have the Southeast a little bit that's growing. So you kind of look at where construction growing is, and so you do both trade and you do region. And
yeah, I think that's
we have we have limited resources, so we got to really focus our dollars in the right place.
That's the big opportunity. Is there's such a discorrelation between where all the projects are and where people have nestled into their homes, and recruiting them to pick up and move for some of this opportunity is.
Yeah, because data centers specifically are pretty remote, right, compared to other projects.
Yeah, I mean, and they're really heavy kind of MEP buildings. They're kind of living buildings. So we think that's a good market for us. I mean, it's a good market for everybody at the moment, but that's one of the kind of sectors that we're looking at.
I want to ask you something, Dex, and I'm going to be a bit cheeky here, and don't judge me for it. And I'm looking for a cheeky answer, perhaps. So you have worked for, in my opinion, great. So Aconex, Command, we already discussed two of them. I mean, fantastic businesses. I actually don't know Command's numbers, but I assume they are somewhat profitable, substantial scale. Aconex definitely. And then, I heard a lot of good things about Toggle. And then Slate is Michael Mark's software company, if I remember correctly, right? So, big names, big logos here. So the cheeky question, right? If you were a parent, what is the favorite child here?
The tension to you asking that question was intense.
I mean, as a dad, you never want to pick a favorite. But I guess I kind of grew up in Aconex. And it was the first kind of SaaS company. It was an awesome company. Like we had a great culture, heavy Australian influence, right? So it was kind of very work hard, play hard, very flat. There's not a lot of egos in Australian business, so you could kind of yell at each other, and we all kind of got married and had kids, and it was really great. And it was international. It was like very different than a U.S. Silicon Valley kind of company. It's this company that grew from Australia into Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and then eventually into the Americas. So it was.
I didn't know it was that sequence. Okay.
Yeah. So I think and we had a double exit, right? So that was we went public in Australia, and then we were acquired by Oracle. So if I had to pick one, I would say Aconex. But I've been fortunate, like you've just pointed out, that I've had a really nice career with lots of interesting kind of different companies.
Yeah. But the firstborn is the favorite here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Dustin, do you have one?
Are we ready to ask about? I mean, I am dying to hear, and this is not your current company, but what is Slate doing?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Marks is an amazing, entrepreneur and business person and leader in Silicon Valley. And he has a business which is Onyx, which is a home building business, largely in Florida and Texas. And so it's a really nice sister company to work with. And it's really developing some interesting tech around generational design, and then also around AI and scheduling and manufacturing, and also real estate intelligence, so land acquisition, things like that. So again, this where we kind of started the conversation around companies that kind of spin out technology. That's really what's happening at Slate. So, and Trevor's a great guy. He was good friends with some of the guys at Aconex, and so I got to meet him along the way. And I think they'll do they're doing some really great kind of technology. So,
curious, Dex, as your previous roles, because you're a chief revenue officer at Toggle and at Slate. When companies like this bring you in, what's the first kind of things you look at to set the foundation for your role and determine what we're going to do to set this up for success?
Yeah, I think, there's the blocking, tackling stuff, which is like setting up a sales process and a CRM and kind of those foundation pieces. But I think, you need your early references. I think, one thing I've learned along the way is like construction is really built around references. Reference customers, early adopters are really important. And then I think in this day and age now, and, I went from kind of SaaS to smaller kind of AI startups because I, saw that was what was the future, is you gotta have to capture lightning in a bottle. So you have to kind of create a buzz. And then you need to build a community. And, that's kind of a buzzword, but I think you really need like a movement. You need people using it, advocating for it, finding unique ways of going to market. You can send as, thousands and millions of emails, but that doesn't really help you in the early days of kind of getting your early adopters, your lighthouse accounts, your, that kind of just getting those great kind of early wins is what's important to kind of build traction. At Toggle, one of the things which great was, obviously we could leverage the coastal network and things like that, but also we went out and we won a bunch of awards. And that really helped us create the lightning in the bottle. We went from outbound to inbound. We went from a few demos a day to having reps have 5 or 6 demos a day. And so I think,
Wow.
catching that lightning in the bottle is figuring out that is kind of an important piece to the early stage.
I want to comment to that because it is one of the things that I also had to learn about this industry and unlearn from my previous like pre-construction time. The thing I tell to my colleagues is track record in construction is a moat. It is truly the thing that compounds. The more you use it, the more you deliver, the more track record you will have. It's actually a flywheel in itself. Now, there is a downside to track record too, and that is especially in the venture arena, sometimes a bit dangerously played. So you can get a lot of attention through any kinds of means, but if you don't deliver, it will stick to you too. And you actually then trying to do more branding, more PR, more track record, behind the scenes, it will be talked about you. Dex, do you have a similar experience as me?
No, I mean, I think like you have to really deliver in those early customers and you have to get them to be your evangelist. You have to get them to speak at the trade shows, to do the case studies, to help you with the ROI. I think those are what really helped us with getting Aconex off the ground and Toggle as well and Slate too.
I think deliver and it will be talked about. Don't deliver and it will be talked about.
Yeah. And I think it's tough now because everyone's pushing to product-led growth and self-service and onboard, which I think has a place in construction, but I also think construction needs some kind of support to roll out technology and get people to adopt it. And, you have a challenge of adopting technology with some solutions, which is not just one company, but it's across a project and things like that. So I'm a big fan of product-led growth, but I think it's kind of sales assisted or customer success assisted product-led growth within the construction tech space.
Well, Dustin, you have another?
Yeah, I think that there's a good cohort of early stage founders that listen to us. And so you as the VP of sales coming in, now you're the CEO, but stepping back, like how important is it that the founders, especially when the founder is the CEO, can help you with sales and can be the voice for that company? Because I've seen some founders that are very reluctant to jump into those early stage calls. And I think that it's a founder who is comfortable selling is a huge asset. And then a founder who's not wanting to make those calls and removes themselves as soon as possible, it can be a huge liability. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dex? I mean, you obviously, I know the Toggle CEO. I'm sure you could talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So,
I think founder-led sales is really important, and I think in the early days it helps you create opportunities. Like, here's a CEO, and he wants to come out and see you and talk to you and learn from you. And so I think just the pure creating opportunities. And then I think what you take away from those meetings as a CEO, how do we market? What are we going to build into the product? How are people using it? I think those things are also really important. The market feedback and bringing that into, the executive team and hearing that voice of the customer, right up front. So I think, founder-led sales, CEO sales are really, really important. So I agree with you, Dustin, like both from getting traction, but also all the kind of market intelligence and insights.
Do you have any more? If not, I've got one for Dex, one last one maybe.
shoot.
Big talk.
Did you buy, okay, maybe, no, I'll ask you first and I'll preface the question. Did you buy any Figma stock?
I didn't buy any Figma stock, so
Yeah.
not yet. How about
Okay.
you?
No,
Yes?
not yet. Not yet. Yeah, I think the sentiment here is not yet too, for obvious reasons. But no, we were having a discussion about it earlier, about how
It's a good
obviously,
sign for the economy. It's a good sign for the market and for, software and the whole kind of tech industry. I think it's a positive kind of sign.
yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. Well, Dex, thank you so much. Good luck with Propel People. I'm sure we will be following your path, your journey from here on in. So, and thanks for coming on.
No, it's great to talk to you guys. Nice to see everybody. So
Good luck,
Thank
Dex.
you.
take care.
Thanks, Dex. 27 years. Name me someone who has been in construction tech longer. And I could almost guarantee you can't chat GPT this kind of stuff.
I mean, I know a few. Jim Lynch, Don Henrik.
Okay. Oh, right. That surprised me. I didn't know the industry had been around that long. Hey.
There's a few. No, I think that recruiting is super important right now, and I don't think people know how to source, especially the SMBs. I mean, I have some friends that run small contracting firms. I think they still post on Craigslist. Yeah, it's
how does it, Dustin? Are you familiar with how the labor pools work in the US? Because let me just explain why I'm asking this. Because typically in the UK, you'll have like a construction company, then they will use like a subcontractor, but this subcontractor will typically be like one person who then has a number of people that work for them, and they become like your point of contact for all of the other trades within that company. And you typically, it's like you have a UK based incorporated company, then you'll have like someone from Eastern European background, and then you will pay them, and then they pay all of their friends or whoever
Is
they
that what
bring
you
across.
call in the UK informally the Baron?
I guess something similar to that definition, yeah. And he probably
that doesn't sound like the way it operates. I'll admit that I'm not an expert about how it works with. I mean, we're talking mostly with the union. So if you're signatory to the electrical union, but so you will have people that are on full-time salary and payroll that are members of the electrical union, but your day-to-day labor, I'm sure you have people that never leave your company and you're just reserving them and keeping them in work. But then as you flex up, you're pulling from the hall, which is usually a wait list of people and it's order of how long they've been there. I don't know if you get to bypass that or if the union's like, no, you got to take this person next. We should have someone with one of the labor unions come on.
Okay,
that would be fun.
Cool.
The crazy thing about that UK practice on that you were just referencing, I actually looked at a company a couple of years ago that was attacking the payroll between contractors and subcontractors and then the workers, specifically starting in the UK. And they had first, surfaced this Baron approach. That's what they currently called it.
Yeah.
And what I learned through that is, according to the diligence back then, these barons would also take a cut of the payroll of the people. So
Yes,
I was
yeah.
like, okay, I mean, that is, I know a few other less formal occupations that do something like that too. But hey, I mean, they originate the contract, I guess, and bring these people into work. I guess, they're like a managed marketplace that way.
Yeah,
That's
so
another way to look at it.
You pay them 11, they take 1 and give their employee 10.
When I think of the title Baron, that sounds like something a Baron would do.
There was a company. So yeah, there was in the UK, there was some legal issues with that setup, clearly. But there was a company that we're tackling over here called Hudson. And I know from my last memory of them was just reading about how much they had grown and how well they were doing as a company. I don't know of recent times. This is maybe a few years ago now, but I think they're trying to tighten the screw probably legally on that now. But yeah, it was an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely precarious relationship. So that's not something I wanted to be invested in. Not just for when it's precarious, it also means there might be changes to the market structure or how it operates, but also I just didn't find it particularly more moral to be invested in. So, but it is true that I haven't seen that practice outside of the UK. So far it has been quite UK specific from what I could see.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, guys.
Well, maybe Middle East. That's my guess. Maybe something similar.
Well, no. Okay. You have anything else you want to bring to the table?
Where's Martin?
Traveling as usual. He sent me a picture yesterday of like 6 quad bikes, and that was it.
Quad bikes?
That's all I know.
There was no context. It was just.
He sold his electric vehicle and is now going through London on a quad.
Yeah, I think he was in Poland doing some quad biking.
He travels a lot.
Yeah, he has been on one this year, actually. Yeah, he's been doing a hell of a lot.
It's actually funny. Dustin, were you on the episode when we kind of made that remark as well? And he was saying, "Well, I worked a lot to be allowed to travel that much," and I was like to myself, "Well, I work a lot to have to travel less." Actually, so.
It wasn't, but it's so true. I really wanted to get to Europe this year, and then I started looking at my work travel schedule. I'm like, I'm not getting to Europe. Like between my work travel schedule, I'm like, I'm not adding more travel. Like that sounds awful.
Yeah, you mean for work purposes, Dustin, or just for leisure?
Just for leisure. Yeah. There's a chance I can get out to maybe the UK, but I actually wanted to go to Germany and maybe Norway or Sweden, but I don't see it happening.
Dude, I'll show you around. Just let me know.
Yeah,
we do Bricks Bucks Bytes live at Patric's.
How cold is it over the holidays there?
It depends on the part. So southern Germany.
Guys, one sec. I'm just going to stop the recording because I don't think people want to listen to this.
Oh, okay. Nice ending.
Yeah,
nice.